Merry Meet Weirdos, I'm Gory B Movie, and with me today is...
Jenny Knightmare, and I'm a horror addict.
You are indeed. Okay, so let me know if the audio and everything is good, if you can hear us, if there's an echo, because, I just like to know, so I can fix it for you and make it enjoyable for you. So we are nearing the end of 2022, and I was a little nervous at the beginning of it, but 2022 ended up being a great year for horror.
Yeah, it was a pretty good year for us in general, too.
Pretty great year all around.
Compared to the years that we've had, the last couple of years before, I think 22 was actually a pretty good year.
Yeah. We got some awesome people here celebrating the almost New Year with us in the chat. By the way, if you guys like streams, I got streams at the wazoo for you. We're talking about Gremlins 2 tonight and why we love it. Tomorrow morning, you can have coffee with me or tea, beverage of choice, no judgment. And Sunday, we got a double feature. Well, like triple feature if you count that Cheetah comes on before me.
Yeah.
Then after Cheetah, I'm going to do the best of 2022. And then over on Horror Addicts, we're going to do the worst of 2022. So many streams, guys. So many streams. Let's see who we got here in the chat. Thank you, Jason, for the thumbs up. Nice to see Mr. Flickster. My buddy Patrick's here. Nanette's here. Ariel. Brandon.
Fairpoint Station.
Yay!
Bunch of devil emojis.
Where's the little alert? It's supposed to come on.
According to YouTube, it's ogre emojis. They look like devils, but whatever. Thanks, Fairpoint Station. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Fairpoint Station. There's supposed to be a little alert that comes up, but whatever.
Party on Sundays. Hell yeah, party on Sundays. But
yeah, thank you so much, Fairpoint Station, for the 666 donation. That is Fairpoint's donation of choice. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good one. Alrighty, so are you ready to talk about Gremlins 2 and why we love it?
Gizmo caca.
Gizmo caca.
That's what I need. I need a new Gremlins shirt that says Gizmo caca.
Oh my gosh, it's like my favorite line from the first one.
Yes.
So yeah, you guys know this show. This show, we love B movies, and we love to champion the B movies because we're all the weirdos here. And this is a movie that when it came out, it got a lot of hate.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people didn't quite get it. It is very different than the original.
But it's also the same in certain ways. It's just the way you look at it. And I loved it when it first came out, but I was really little. So a lot of people told me I had no taste. I still love it, so I don't care.
Yeah, so the first one has a darker tone to it. Like we talked about last week, it's a lot. It actually is genuinely scary. Mm-hmm. There's some parts of the first Gremlins that are really scary. There are a couple parts here that are a little creepy, but Gremlins 2 is more like a Looney Tunes cartoon. I mean, the Looney Tunes are even in it. They open it before the credits and then they close it. Which they actually got Looney Tunes animators to do. And the whole idea was that this was just going to be pure anarchy. So what's more anarchy than Looney Tunes? And just breaking the fourth wall and doing all these things. And Joe Dante said he wanted this to be almost like a satire of Gremlins. It's almost making fun of the movie that it came from. And the reason for that was when they approached, Gremlins made a lot of money. And so, of course, the studio sees dollar signs. They go to Joe Dante and they say, we want a sequel. And he didn't really get that. He thought it was a great movie. He thought it ended well. And he thought the only reason to make a sequel was to essentially sell out, which he weren't about to do. He had that integrity.
Until they tripled the budget.
Well, they shopped it around to a lot of different people. They pitched it to a lot of directors, a lot of writers. At one point, the Gremlins were going to go to Mars. Another point, they were going to go to Vegas. When they came back to Joe Dante, they made him a deal he couldn't turn down, which was you have full creative control.
And went to New York. That's where they ended up going.
And on top of that, they tripled the budget. So this movie had triple the budget, and he had full creative control. So he wanted this to be kind of the essence of Gremlins. Gremlins are pure mayhem and anarchy, and that's what this movie is. In addition to satirizing the first movie, it's satirizing a lot of pop culture. We've got Batman, we've got Phantom of the Opera. It satirizes commercialism. It satirizes a lot of 80s culture things, like Froyo was just getting, its thing. Genetics were a big part of the, conversation at the time. So yeah, this was kind of
Super malls.
Yeah. Donald Trump there's a character kind of based on him and Ted Turner.
Yeah, Clamp.
So this movie was ahead of its time as far as being a satire, being a meta horror movie, breaking that fourth wall years before a lot of other films even thought about it. This movie was meta before meta, and this movie does have a cult following now, and I think that's part of why.
Yeah. Well, the first movie was kind of like a Neapolitan ice cream of Spielberg, Dante, and Christopher Columbus. This one, they're like, oh, let's just really triple down on that Joe Dante. And I love that. I love it about it. I think he went nuts with it, and I'm glad he did because it's fun. He does a lot of nuts movies, like he did The Burbs. That movie's nuts. I love Joe Dante movies. But yeah, the first one had a little more darkness because Christopher Columbus originally wrote it as a horror movie, but then it got kind of like, turned a little bit into a family movie. But this one, it's not even a family movie, I would say. It's just a silly-ass movie.
This is essentially more a little more violent Looney Tunes, but even the violence in this is very cartoony. There's not a lot of... There's one part where a gremlin goes through like a paper shredder.
Yeah.
Ariel, we did see the kill count on Dead Meat was awesome. Nice to see Maverick Media here. Good buddy of mine.
One little complaint is we don't get enough of that theme. Like, they have a little bit of it, but I loved that theme and its use in the first movie. Though, I would have to say, overall, this is a very rockin' soundtrack.
This soundtrack is really metal. It's got, I think Faith No More's on it. It's got a lot of metal stuff. And, again, that was just Joe Dante wanting this to be as, as anarchistic as possible. Like, it's essentially like, what if the Gremlins made a movie? Graveyard Grog does not like this one. And they say, I hated part 2. Joe Dante came back for it, but honestly, I just hated how the Gremlins looked. I didn't like the dark comedy. That's what made part 1 with the tongue-in-cheek. I totally respect that. Hopefully, when we talk about it a little bit today, we can make you maybe appreciate it a little bit more. If not, you're entitled to your own opinion, my friend. But I will say, what I think is really cool about this is Joe Dante says this is the most Joe Dante movie he's ever made because he had full creative control. He got to put whatever he want in this. And so at one point with the first Gremlins, they had a list. And it was for the bar scene. It was like, whatever crazy gremlin thing you can think of, sure, we can do that. This whole movie is that. There's a great Key and Peele sketch where he's like, come on, no bad ideas. What do you got? Vegetable gremlin, electricity gremlin. And it's
Hulk Hogan.
And it's like, don't worry, none of that will be in the movie. And
all of that's in the movie.
All of that is in the movie.
What's sadly not? Joe Bob Briggs.
Yes, Joe Bob Briggs was supposed to be in the movie theater scene and sadly got cut out. But we do have Hulk Hogan. Nanette, thank you so much for the donation. She says, thank you, Gory and Danny, for the live stream. Thank you for watching.
No, I think Hulk Hogan got cut out to the VHS part. But then it came back in the DVD, though.
Initially, they considered doing that. The VHS thing they did with John Wayne didn't go as well. And so it is a deleted scene on the at-home viewing for DVD and Blu-ray. I'm not sure about what happened with VHS. Maybe on VHS.
I think he got cut out of VHS.
But I'm pretty sure Hulk Hogan is on the Blu-ray and the DVD.
Yeah, and he was definitely in the theatrical release.
The part where they break the fourth wall. Another thing that's really cool about this movie, again, we're talking triple the budget. There's a lot of things the Gremlins could not do, and Gizmo could not do in that first movie. They couldn't walk. For starters, that's why Gizmo's in a backpack the entire movie. It's because they didn't have the ability to make them walk. This one, they're utilizing a lot of new technology like blue screen and such. And check out this, guys. I mean, this is how far they've come from Gizmo not being able to walk at all to Gizmo running away. And I think the blue screen compositing in this film is brilliant. I mean, even in high definition, sometimes a lot of these movies that were filmed on regular film back in the 80s or 90s, you watch them in high definition and they don't look quite that good.
Ghostbusters, sadly. Because I love Ghostbusters, but in the high definition, there's some flaws that you can notice more than you could have back in the day.
But this one, yeah, in high definition, it looks great. There's some great scenes where I know they did blue screen compositing. There's a part where like the Bat Gremlin is attacking Dick Miller, or that scene we just looked at, and you honestly can't tell. Yeah, it looks really, really good.
I like it when he dances out of his cage. I thought that was one of the cutest parts for the blue screen.
I love that. I was gonna grab the clip for us, but I'm very careful to not use clips with music.
Exactly. I don't blame you. I love that part. And the random two twin guys, like, who are they? They remind me kind of something out of Erie, Indiana, like the two twins in that show.
Yes, the twins were also in Terminator 2.
Oh,
and let's talk about that. We're going to talk about the main cast of this film, but oh my gosh, there are so many side characters and cameos, and I don't know if they were all intended to be cameos or they're just people that he wanted in the movie. One of them was Julia Sweeney, who you love as It's Pat.
It's Pat. You're all washed up, Pat.
Julia Sweeney's part is that they have the flu and they work for the evil Dr. Catheter, which is just the worst name. Yeah. We'll talk about Dr. Catheter here in a little bit. One that I really enjoy, the one that essentially causes the mayhem, John Astin here. Better known as Gomez from the original Addams Family TV show, is the janitor who, while fixing the water fountain, gets Gizmo wet. And then we got a whole bunch of babies.
It's Attack of the Killer Tomato Gremlin. There is a tomato gremlin. It's a vegetable gremlin anyways. But yeah, he's dealt with killer tomatoes before. So how about vegetable gremlins?
And I see Mummy B Movie is here in the chat. Hey, Mummy. Let's see who else. Gosh, I can't remember his name, but I know this guy ended up becoming a big deal in like Breaking Bad later on. Okay, the Messenger, and he's been in some movies. Let's see who else. The security guard is the guy who played Art in The Burbs. Yeah, his best friend, his
freeloading neighbor friend that comes over and like just starts eating their breakfast without asking.
Yep. Which actually, there's a couple people from The Burbs in this movie. There's the guy who played Art, and then there is the head of the household.
Yeah,
who gets fired for an unauthorized smoke break.
Yeah, and then he went back to his home where
That's an unauthorized break period, my friend. You don't work here anymore. Do we have a problem communicating? You're gone. Terminated.
This movie also did kind of like the dystopian kind of overlord thing. You know, we had a little bit of that in the late 80s, early 90s with like Running Man and movies like that. This kind of corporate overlords who were doing the 1984 thing and always watching you. But this movie had that too. Like there's so much in this movie. There's creature features. There's corporate overlords. There's dentists. There's everything.
He should have bought one of those smokeless ashtrays. That way he wouldn't have got caught. And you know, I don't blame him. He's just stressed out because Tom Hanks is really investigating his house. It's like, dude, you gotta have a smoke break to get that tense of you.
There we go. Yeah, so he's in this. I lost my pictures. So yeah, lots of awesome, fun side characters in this. Let's talk about our main cast. So, Cheetah wanted to know, is Phoebe Cates in this? Phoebe Cates is in this. And you know what? I actually don't know what the popular opinion is on this, but I like her better in this movie.
Okay, well, this is the one thing I will say, though, about her in this movie that I like better in the original. In the original, she got a chance to kind of show what a badass she was. In this, she doesn't recognize Gizmo. And she's pretty helpless when the spider gremlin tries to get her. She doesn't do much. She's kind of a damsel in distress and a lot. She's still great. Like her line delivery, awesome. Still just as good. She was amazing in the first movie. I loved her Christmas monologue. I love how they cut her off when she's doing a Lincoln birthday day memorial monologue. In this one, they're like, yeah, we don't have time for that.
Yeah, I'll show that clip here real quick. Yeah, so she's played as kind of a straight character in the original. She's, the girl next door, and she's kind of a badass. In this, what I love about her is she is given the chance to really shine as a comedian. She's so funny in this. Her line delivery is on point. I can't play you the whole scene because it's rather long, but we love this scene.
Can't give up now. Washington didn't give up. Lincoln didn't give up.
Please.
What's wrong?
Oh, don't mention Lincoln. Something terrible happened to me one year on Lincoln's birthday.
Which I love because that scene is so funny in the original one where she's talking about how her dad died coming down the chimney, but it's also funny because it's something you can conceive somebody doing.
Yeah.
And she plays it just so straight, but a lot of people made fun of that. Like we said last week, Joe Dante, they really pushed him to get rid of it.
And they fought to keep it in there, and I'm glad. And it was awkward. He was like, this point where it's like, people don't know if they want to laugh or be like, just upset. And it made people awkward.
And the movie is having fun with itself in this one where, now she's traumatized by a guy dressed up kind of like Lincoln in a rain jacket on Lincoln's birthday.
So I never get to find out what he did.
Though the movie isn't set on Lincoln's birthday. The movie is okay, that's kind of a dodgy one. So we have a picture of a Christmas present at one point. That's the only thing I can find that kind of gives us an idea of when this movie is set. So yeah, there's a Christmas present underneath someone's table when the Mogwais get out.
Could be a birthday present for all we know, though.
It looks like Christmas wrapping to me.
Like Christmas.
There's also another present there that's in green and red. Okay. It could be, I'm guessing sometime before December or, around the holidays, probably this time of year. But it never comes out and says it's a Christmas movie or anything like that.
It takes place in New York and there's no snow, though. They would have snow, you think, if it was real close to Christmas?
Dan, they have Gremlins, all right? They got bigger problems right now. You don't know what's going on. You don't know their life.
I have no idea when it takes place.
I see Echo Cero is here. Nice to see you. So I love her in this movie. I think her comedic timing is great. I also love how she is so traumatized by the Gremlins and the Mogwai. Billy is really happy because, he really bonded with Gizmo. And so when he finds out that, he gets to take Gizmo home, he's really happy, though very irresponsible. He just puts him in a drawer and then leaves him there alone.
The worst timing for him.
And then he tells Kate to go get him. She's like, he's going to come live with us at our house. And she's just like traumatized. He's like, no. It's going to be fine this time. You remember the rules. And she's like, okay. Yeah, I can do this. But she goes there and it is not Gizmo at all. It's this little guy.
Yep.
Daffy!
I love Daffy. He's like one
Daffy
of my favorites.
is adorable.
Especially as a Mogwai. But I like him as a gremlin too.
Yeah, maybe we could have like a googly-eyed gremlin. By the way, guys, look up the Key and Peele sketch on Gremlins 2. It's on YouTube. You can watch the whole sketch on there. Definitely worth checking out. I can't play it for you here or I'm going to get in trouble.
Daffy is the most Looney Tune of all the Gremlins.
Named after a Looney Tune.
Exactly.
We love Daffy.
You get Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny in the opening, so.
Also just there's a lot of other parts of this movie that are just so random but memorable. They didn't stand out to me as a kid, but now as an adult, they're some of my favorite parts. Like when his boss takes him out to dinner, but they don't just go to a normal dinner place. They go to some freaking Canadian Mountie place. It's just so random.
She's like, it's Canadian. They clean the fish right in front of you. It's like,
that sounds disgusting.
They're very polite, and they'll cut you a big chunk chocolate mousse.
Sir, this is a favorite Canadian dessert, the chocolate mousse. Can I cut you an antler?
You want an antler?
So random. I love
I
it.
love it's just so crazy. It's so crazy and so random. And what I love about this movie is, I talk a lot about how the only thing that really frustrates me when it comes to decisions with movies is when the money people get involved and they have looked at all the charts and statistics and they think they have figured out what's going to sell. And then a lot of really great things in movies are changed. The Weinsteins are really guilty of this with a lot of like Dimension films. And this movie, it really feels like Joe Dante was given the freedom to play. It looked like everybody had a great time making this movie, and it's just so creative. And that's really the essence of what a movie should be. Just having a really good time telling a story.
That's what I love about movies when they're allowed to swing for the fences. I mean, even if this word didn't work for you, if you thought that it kind of struck out, you have to appreciate that they just went for it. They tried. They threw everything that they wanted to into the movie, and nobody told them they couldn't. And I love that about both Gremlins movies.
I love that with any movie, and that's why it's a risk, because it's not going to work for everybody. There are people who don't like this, and that's completely fine. You are entitled to whatever opinion you want. But I like that they took a big risk, and for a lot of people, that risk paid off. And I think that's awesome. I think it's really cool. Also, if you watch a lot of the behind the scenes in part 1, if you watch the behind the scenes in this one, that one even satirizes the first movie. Zach Galligan, who plays Billy, thought that he was going to have the big hero moment at the end of the film. And they gave it to Gizmo, and he's like, but I thought I was the hero. And they're like, it's called Gremlins, okay? It's called Gremlins.
Not the Adventures of Billy.
Yeah. And in this one, they have basically Gizmo being a total diva, and they have that exact quote. So the special features on this are really worth a watch. Let's talk about Billy. What I like about Billy in this one, what I like about you. Billy, it's established in a lot of the deleted scenes, but a lot of it didn't make it into the movie with the exception of one tiny part in a bar, that Billy likes to draw. And that's why he goes to New York, because he wants to be an architect, and he's not going to have a lot of opportunities to do so in Kingston Falls. And so, yeah, they really paid attention to that and developed that character a little bit more. He's this, sweet, small town guy in the big, mean city. But I also like that this movie, it's not always the way it is in real life, but it's a fantasy, and the good people in this get rewarded,
Well, he drew like Kate and stuff, and there's some bad artwork when he was a kid, but Gremlins established that the dude loves to draw, so it's kind of cool that he finally got a job in New York doing it, even though he's learning, even though he's still pretty naive as a character. He's learning pretty quickly that the big business world is kind of have an ugly side to it.
Yeah, so he's still sweet Billy, but he's pushing himself outside of his comfort zone, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, New York is in the process of trying to taint him.
I do get a little frustrated with him because he has a boss who's very sexually aggressive with him, and he does not know how to handle it.
No.
She straight up, tries to play footsies with his jingleberries underneath the table, and he's just like, I gotta go, instead of just standing up for himself. And then he doesn't tell his fiance about it. I'm just like, Billy. To quote Kate, if they survive this, he's gonna be in big trouble.
Yeah, you're in the dog. You're gonna be in trouble. He doesn't even know because his boss grabs him by the tie, and he gives her his cheek as he knows that she's going in for a kiss, but the lipstick's still there, and Kate sees it, and it's like, Billy, come on, just at least tell her that you're having problems with your boss and you don't know how to handle it.
Nanette wants to know, what's our favorite scene in the movie?
This movie, I love the Bat Gremlin. I'm a big fan of the Bat Gremlin and the Electric Gremlin especially. And even though it's sad and it's pretty early on in the movie, the Bat Gremlin is one of the first Gremlins to go. I love its battle that it has with Dick Miller.
I don't have the battle with Dick Miller. I do have a picture of the Bat Gremlin, though.
I think it's one of the coolest looking Gremlins. And they didn't make toys for this movie until way later. I remember Hastings had the Bat Gremlin at the very end of Hastings' life before it shut down, but that was by the time we were way into our adult life.
Yeah, the Bat Gremlin's really cool. Lots of cool stop motion work in this movie. Which is really impressive. The Bat Gremlin is amazing. Also, another little bit of satire, when the Bat Gremlin goes through the wall, it's the Batman symbol, the bat symbol.
And this movie's about selling out and stuff, and they it's a whole satire of it. That's what the whole point is America is selling out. But as a kid, I wish they would have sold out more. I would have totally bought toys for this. Like, I had the Nintendo game. I still do. I love that Nintendo game, so they did at least have that. But I would have loved action figures of the Bat Gremlin and stuff back when I was a kid.
And Jason, we are drinking George Killian's and ice water in this cool new tumbler my mummy got me.
Oh, yeah. It's a really good one.
My favorite scene in this movie probably is the one we just looked at with Kate, where she starts going into the whole Lincoln's thing. I really like that part. I also like when she first brings Daffy home and she's like, I don't know what to feed you. Like, she's just like trying so hard. Poor Kate. I love Kate in this movie.
Yeah, not only was Daffy and Gizmo on the guest list, but the Futtermans come back from the dead somehow. And they're supposed to be staying with Kate and Billy, but unfortunately they already have furry little guests that are ruining that.
Yeah, so we've got Mrs. Futterman, who was Audrey in the original Little Shop of Horrors.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she starred in that movie with the legendary Dick Miller, who, I mean, even if you don't know Dick Miller's name, you've seen him in a dozen movies. But he returns in this. They are miraculously still alive. And I also like that. I feel like everybody gets their vindication. Like, everyone, they do a great job with all these characters. Like, in a lot of movies with big casts, what's frustrating is the characters don't really have their own purpose. Every character has an issue or something that they want to work through. And with Mr. Futterman, he is still traumatized by the Gremlins, but he also thinks that he's crazy. You know, and so his wife will be like, oh, I saw that too. You know, she wants to get a lot of pictures of New York City. Yeah. You know, but like he finally, when the Bat Gremlin attacks him, he feels like vindicated, like, I'm not crazy. Yeah. And he wants to go help his friends. So like everyone, it's a very feel-good movie. Like there's a part at the end of Gremlins, which is really good. And it does make us think. And we need to be challenged by movies. Yeah. But this movie doesn't want to challenge you. It just wants you to have a really good time. And I think it succeeds in doing so. Let's talk about, obviously, the creature of the hour, Gizmo.
Gizmo? Bit of a diva,
you know what? No. I know my favorite part of the movie. I love Gizmo so much. I do wish, as far as minor complaints, I wish there was a little more Giz. I love Gizmo. But Gizmo loves television. I don't know why Mr. Wong has a television right in front of Gizmo's habitat, but he never gets to watch it. And so after Mr. Wong passes away at the beginning of the movie, Gizmo gets to watch television and listen to rock music, and he's just adorable. He's like a little furry Marty McFly. He is just precious. Too precious for this world. And he loves Rambo, but he's a little sweetheart, and he gets tortured so much worse in this movie than he did in Gremlins. They put him down the vent. They do all these horrible, hit him with a train, horrible things. And then, oh gosh, I gotta show you guys a few little clips here. Just how much I love Giz. I love Giz so much.
They use a photocopier to blind him with the bright lights.
So I'll show you guys a few little clips. This is Gizmo beginning his montage because he's just about had enough. He's so precious. So precious. But finally Gizmo comes and he saves the day after the spider gremlin attacks the boss, and we see Rambo Gizmo.
Take that, Mohawk.
But I think my favorite part and my favorite line is this one right here.
What happened to him?
I don't know. I guess they pushed him too far.
I guess they pushed him too far.
Straight out of Rambo.
I love it so much. It's so precious. It's too precious for this world. So I love Gizmo. Do wish we had a little bit more of him, but the animatronic animation, everything they've done with Gizmo, he just looks great. So expressive and just such a character that you instantly feel for. You still feel for him after the first movie, and I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? I want to talk about Dr. Catheter, which is just the most unfortunate name ever. But this is the legendary Christopher Lee, best known for his Hammer career, you know, Dracula, The Mummy, also great movies like The Wicker Man. Mm-hmm. I still think it's funny that he turned down the role of Dr. Loomis, but, you know, he took this movie, which I love it, but, you know, it's not considered highbrow cinema by any means.
No, but I think the fact that, Spielberg and everybody had their name attached to the first one, and everybody really did like that first one. I think that's probably what helped him sign on for the second one. It's not the same beast. I love it, but I get why, I think it helped that first one had a great reputation.
Yeah, he's very much like a Dr. Frankenstein in this. Like, he's interested in germs and experiments. And that's why we have so many different gremlins in this, because they have all these different concoctions in their laboratory. Let's see, who else? We got to talk about Grandpa Fred, who I really wish they had gotten Al Lewis. I think Al Lewis had passed away by this point. Who played Grandpa in the Munsters, because then we would have had a Munsters and an Addams Family cameo. But this guy is, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was in Christine. He's the guy who owns the garage.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's kind of like a Peter Vincent type character. He has like a Fright Night type show, and they only get to show color movies, which he's bummed out by because he thinks all the best ones are in black and white. But what he always wanted to do was go into radio broadcasting.
Yeah, and he gets his chance because him and who is it that is his cameraman?
Getty Watanabe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but Getty is better known as Long Duck Dong in 16 Candles.
Yeah, I love how his line in this movie though is because Grandpa Fred asks him like, you know how to use a camera? He's like, I am the camera. I love that. He's like, I am the camera.
He doesn't get to do a whole lot, and yeah, I mean, it is guilty of being kind of a negative Asian stereotype. But he had fun making this movie, and, these movies led to roles that he really did enjoy. Like, he loved his role in Vamp, where, he got to have a character that he thought was really breaking stereotypes. So, I love him in this movie. I think he does a great job.
And Grandpa Fred play off each other very well.
Comic duo.
I love that they get, like, their hero's arc, where they're both kind of wanting something, and they both get to do it through this tragedy. Grandpa Fred, yes, I've always kind of said is just Grandpa Munster in this movie. I know it's not the Grandpa Munster, but he's always given me that vibe.
His name's Robert Prosky, and as Graveyard mentioned, or Grog, as Grog mentioned, can I call you Grog? I think we're good enough friends I can call you Grog. As Grog mentioned, he is also the Ticketmaster in Last Action Hero, and that's another Grog. I'm trying to turn you onto this movie here, buddy. Another one of the reasons why this movie is so much fun is there's so many fun cameos. Like, some of these people weren't even intentionally cameos; they've just become famous since then. So, just if you love cinema and you love television, there's a lot of really cool character actors in here. Obviously, Mr. Wong comes back at the beginning of the movie. He's not in it very long, because action needs to happen, but he is great when he is there. And I also want to talk about Marla Bloodstone, who is, this very powerhouse boss that Galligan has. She just wants to be successful, and she's going to do whatever it takes, even using like her feminine wiles or whatever. But she's played by Haviland Morris, who I did see Ariel mention earlier. She is the mom in Home Alone Part 3. I know her best as being the girlfriend of, God, why am I drawing a blank? Oh my God, I love that movie too. She's the popular girl, the girlfriend of the main love interest guy in 16 Candles. Drawing a total blank. Haviland Morris. I can't remember. It's driving me crazy. I'm gonna have to go look. Yeah, she's Caroline. But God, what is Jake Ryan? Jake Ryan. Yes, Jake Ryan's girlfriend. Which that's a whole other problematic thing that we're not going to get into. But she is great in that. She's really funny, and I feel like she gets to do a lot more in this movie. And yeah, just lots of cool actors in this film that I really enjoy.
Use her New York accent in this film as well.
Yeah.
And she takes advantage of poor naive Billy.
Who wouldn't? I mean, what? What?
Going back to Mr. Wong though, since I didn't get
I'm sorry, Danny.
I wanted to say something. He's not very much in this movie, but it's kind of like implied that he died, and then 6 weeks later his place gets demolished, and that's why Gizmo
that edit is really funny.
But then, his place is demolished, so Gizmo has to get out of there. I love how they didn't even clean out his shop before demolishing it.
There's living creatures in there.
Exactly. I hope Gizmo's been feeding them.
And luckily, Gizmo. Well, I guess lucky because it ends up good, but he gets found by one of the twins.
Yeah, and then he's put in the experiment where they're doing the gene splicing, and then Billy finds him.
But yeah, he had a grandson.
Where'd he go? Why wasn't he there?
I'm surprised that the shop, they didn't contact his family and stuff because his grandson should still be around
Yeah.
to, remove his stuff. And then I think it would have been, I mean, honestly, I guess it wouldn't work because the grandson probably would have called Billy and been like, hey, you can take Gizmo. He trusted you. He said one day you'd be ready and now's the time because he can't take care of him now. But then you wouldn't have Gizmo like being in the experiment and stuff. And it happened the way it needed to happen, guys.
Daniel Clamp, I love how he like basically tried to buy him out, but then decided to wait for him to pass on because like he's a dinosaur. We'll just wait.
It's his assistant who's a total douche.
Oh yeah, that's true. But Daniel Clamp still at the same time is like he wants the big parade to say how great he's done for Chinatown when obviously he has not been doing well.
Yeah.
But I want to also point out that Wong is a big part of the video game because when you buy your items, you buy them from him in his little shop.
But yeah, this is the assistant who's really just not a nice guy, but he gets his comeuppance. Like, he does all the things that you want the movie to do. But you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about them Gremlins. But first, let's see how our chat's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're talking about, so I'm just gonna scroll. Yeah, poor Mr. Wing. Is it Mr. Wing or is it Mr. Wong?
Wong. No, well,
it is
it's
Mr.
Wing. You're right.
Thank you,
Wing.
Ariel, for correcting me. Blossom played LeBay, owner of Christine. Owner of Christine. I'm talking about the guy who owns the shed, the garage that Arnie goes to work on the thing. That's our Robert Prosky.
Yeah.
He owns the garage because he's not allowed to keep it at his house. I agree. Gremlins 2 is more comedy than horror. Hey, Strange Monkey, my buddy. Cal L, nice to see you here. Why is the world so obsessed over the word twin? I have no idea I didn't know that the world was obsessed with the word twin. But now I know. And knowing is half the battle. The other half of the battle is lasers. Lasers. Danny, I want to talk to you about them Gremlins.
Well, Brain, Lawl's favorite.
Of course.
Lawls does not care for Mohawk, the reincarnation of Stripe. He thinks, and I agree, that Brain is the true leader of the Gremlins, of part 2, the villain, and he also lasts longer than Mohawk in the movie. So I would say Lawls is somewhat right, and Brain is awesome. I love his personality. I love that he can sing New York, New York. I love that he gets to kind of talk he's the voice of the voiceless. He is the CM Punk of the Gremlins here.
Hopefully he doesn't get them canceled.
Right.
I like that he's still very much a gremlin, though. Like, he's doing an interview with Grandpa Fred, and then a gremlin comes over and he's like, look at this guy, totally uncivilized, shoots him in the face. Like, he's still a gremlin. Like, don't, just because he sounds polished and sophisticated does not mean he is not a gremlin. He wants that musical number. He wants that chaos. He just wants to be able to experience even more. He wants to go to Broadway shows and stuff because you know they love a good musical.
I love how they're talking about how like they need to figure out how to get tickets to see these Broadway shows, but they're also talking about how there's a lot of street crime in New York. He's like, well, but that we can at least see for free.
Yeah, mommy, that's the guy I'm talking about. Darnell's Garage. He is Grandpa Fred in this movie. All right, so let's talk about Mohawk.
Now he is the reincarnated of Stripe, as I said earlier. I feel like he looks cool and he looks even a little more menacing than Stripe did, but he does lack a personality of his own. Stripe had way more personality, I think, in the first movie, where he is kind of a knockoff and doesn't have a whole lot to do.
I agree with that, but I contest that Stripe is the only one of the other Gremlins that has a personality.
Yeah.
There's like a Flasher, there's a few things in the bar scene, but there are a lot of Gremlins who have established personalities. There's Larry, there's Mohawk, there's a whole bunch of them that are really memorable. Daffy. So it's okay that he's not as memorable as Stripe, because Stripe was the only Gremlin that was memorable in the first one.
In that little group of Mogwais in the first movie, Stripe was...
You're a group of Mogwai.
Yeah, Stripe and Gizmo were the only ones that had personalities, and the other ones were just Stripe's henchmen.
Of course, we love Daffy. I think Daffy's my favorite of the new ones. He's just great as a Mogwai. He's great as a Gremlin. I feel like the Gremlins are kind of like vampires in Buffy. They're different degrees of evil. Some of them are straight up homicidal. Some of them are more like, some of them are more Angela. Some of them are more Spike.
Exactly. I think some of these Mogwais and Gremlins might, well, maybe not when they're Gremlins, but when they're Mogwais, I think some of them would have a chance of not being so bad, except for Stripe or Mohawk is a huge influence. They're the alpha and they're evil. Those two are both evil. Some of them I think are just chaotic, like that's just their nature, but they wouldn't necessarily be bad. Like even when in the first movie when they make one at the high school for his professor, it doesn't seem bad. They're just kind of like talking to each other through the wall of the cardboard. There's no one there to give them like a bad vibe about either one of them. But Daffy is definitely crazy as shit. I don't think he's evil as a Mogwai, but he's
just
nuts.
chaotic.
Super nuts. And
Just chaotic.
once he's a gremlin, I think he is a little bit evil.
He's all pure anarchy, and anarchy can be a little destructive.
Yes.
I want to say hi to my horror brother Craven, who's in the chat. Nice to see you, buddy. Denisha is here. Nice to see you. We got Dominic here. Nice. Awesome people here in the chat. And happy New Year's weekend to you, Craven. Let's see. Who else we want to talk about? We talked about the bat gremlin. Then there's randomly a vegetable gremlin.
Attack of the Killer Tomato Gremlin. You know, we had a
Which
cameo.
is, hey, we got John Aston in this.
Yeah, so
who
there you go.
That's a movie we need to talk about on this show at some point. Is Return to
Alright.
the Killer Tomatoes. My personal favorite of the Killer Tomatoes. By the way, guys, last year I really focused on trying to stream regularly, which I accomplished. I'm really bad at time management, so big accomplishment for me.
There you go.
This year I'm gonna have videos in addition to a lot of streams, so I'm working on some fun stuff.
And not to, plug too much of my own stuff, but I did a great review of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, and I'm pretty proud of that opening, especially.
You
The
did
tomatoes
indeed.
chased me up the stairs, so...
Great stop motion.
Feel
And also another fan favorite, you can see her right behind me too, is Greta. Because now there's a gremlin with boobs. I don't want to say it's a female gremlin, so let's talk about...
There's been other female gremlins before her, and
They reproduce by budding.
Exactly.
They don't have genitals.
they choose their gender. But they've had female gremlins in the first movie even. They just get to have that freedom of that because they don't have genitals by any means.
They can just choose. It's kind of like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. They can be female. They can be male. Honestly, Gremlins is pretty freaking woke.
A very woke species that we like.
Yeah, they're a
tried
very
to
woke
say
species.
Is, below us as humans, but they were accepting.
They
way
were
before.
accepting people embracing their true gender identity way before humans were.
But anyways, she got genetically altered, so she actually does have bosoms.
The bosom and yams for days, guys. Yams for days. Look at like just going up that up skirt shot, which is making me sound really pervy now. But no, she's got the yams.
She's the Smurfette Jessica Rabbit of the Gremlins.
Hubba wubba, as my son would say. Actually, it makes me want to show us the ending scene of this movie, which eventually you just gotta give in. He's like, you know what? She kind of has it going on.
I mean, clearly, before he ever saw her in her wedding dress, she's kind of had her way with him because you can see the lipstick.
He's covered in kisses.
Yeah, his clothes is all ajar and he's covered in kisses. And it seemed like he was really not enjoying it. But when he sees her walking down with the wedding bells and the dress, he kind of like, you know what? All right.
Happy ending for everybody. And that's the thing, I do like to be challenged by movies, and Gremlins does challenge me. It has a bit of criticism about Western society. It has a bit of criticism about, the kind of gifts we give and consumerism and stuff. And it has some things that make you question, how you live, which is really good and really important. This movie, though, is just fun. It's just fun. I don't like the expression, but it is that kind of movie, the turn your brain off and enjoy it movie. Actually, that's not even true because it does have some smart satire in here about consumerism.
Yeah.
But this movie is just really easy to enjoy. Primary directive of this film was that you have a good time.
I mean, even if you don't want to pay attention to the satire and stuff that is in it, you're just going to have a chaotically entertaining time. And that's why I like it. I would still say that I like the first one a little better for its more deeper kind of things, but it's okay because I love this one too. I think it's just like an energy drink of a movie.
That's the thing I want to say. Just because we love something doesn't mean we have to dislike something else. There's always this idea with franchises in particular. Like there has to be a movie in that franchise you don't like. Like you have to pick which Halloween movie you don't like in order to emphasize further which one you do like, or which Scream movie you don't like to emphasize which one you do like. And Gremlins, there's 2 movies, guys. And so a lot of people will kind of say that they dislike this one because they love the first one so much. And for me, that first one is a 5-star movie. It is a masterpiece. It's one of my all-time favorites. I don't love Gremlins 2 as much, but that doesn't mean I don't love it. I love this movie. It's a lot of fun.
That's how I feel about Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, their movies. I love the first one just a little bit more. I think it's almost perfect for all 3 of franchises. I do think these sequels are very strong, at least the second ones. I mean, then you get to certain ones.
I'm also really excited that we're finally getting a Gremlins 3.
Yes.
So it is on IMDb. It has a date. Gremlins 3 is coming out in 2023 December.
Right in time for Christmas.
I'm so excited.
I am too.
And I know Howie Mandel, who returned as the voice of Gizmo in this one, has said, just give me the call and I'll be there to be Gizmo again. So I'm really excited.
I want to also mention, I was going to kind of say something about that when we were doing with Greta there, because Greta never died. She could very well be in the third movie. She could come back. She could very well be in the third movie because she never died. It's also unsaid if Daffy ever died because he was playing dentist when everybody else kind of got electrocuted. He wasn't in that area. And it's arguable about the
Gizmo's alive.
But Gizmo's obviously still alive, so he's going to come back. We know that. But Greta could come back too, and possibly Daffy.
So the guy with Greta at the end of Gremlins 2 is Richard Picardo, another Dante regular. He also played Wolf Eddie Quist in Dante's The Howling.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people from Dante's movies. He's one of those directors where if he likes working with you, he will bring you back. I mean, he even found a way to bring back Dick Miller in this one. So
exactly. Even though he killed him off in the first one. Yeah, he didn't die.
Zach says he can't get into Gremlins. We will remedy this. We'll play the Gremlins game together. Yeah, Echo, it's got a date. It's coming out next year, so I'm really, really excited because I do love Gremlins, and with all the abilities we have now with CGI and animatronics, I think if they take a page out of maybe Chucky's book, where Chucky still uses the animatronics, but they use CGI in order to hide the cables and stuff, so that they can do even more with their puppets.
Running and jumping scenes, I'm fine with CGI. I just don't want them to go crazy. I want mostly there to be puppets and stuff so the actors can interact with them. A Jurassic Park is a perfect example. The first Jurassic Park was great. If you want to do since it's really hard to make Gizmo walk, fine. If he's got to run across the screen, use CGI. But when I see a close-up or someone talking to him, I want a puppet. I want an animatronic. Please do not make it all CGI is all I ask.
That's right, Patrick. He was in Voyager. Yeah, he's a lot of so many awesome actors. A couple more of the cameos we talked about. Here's the Hulk Hogan one, brother.
Do you think the Grimsters can stand up to the Hulkster? Well, if I were you, I'd run the rest of Gremlins too, right now.
It was the 80s, and Hulkamania was running wild, and I even caught a bit of it back myself, but the cure was Macho Madness.
I didn't even watch wrestling, and I actually came down with a bad case of Hulkamania at one point.
Yeah, it was going around. It was one way to combat these gremlins.
It's like in the 80s, you got chicken pox and you got Hulkamania. What can I say?
Running wild.
Everyone got it. They ended up getting Hulkamania shots later on. Yeah. But in the 80s,
it had its own side effects, but like I said, Macho Madness, that was a good way to get rid of it.
And that's another thing I like about this movie is it's very much a time capsule of when it came out in 1990. Hulkamania was huge. It's commenting on a lot of the consumerism and stuff of the time, like Froyo had just become a thing. And Leonard Maltin was the critic. There's Ebert and Siskel and Ebert and all that, but Leonard Maltin was like the big guy. So Leonard Maltin.
What's fun about a movie full of ugly, slimy, mean-spirited, gloppy little monsters who run amok and attack innocent people? Our moviegoers so desperate for entertainment that this kind of trash and passable fun.
It's kind of implied he died. I love that.
I think they killed Leonard Maltin. I like that it also breaks the fourth wall. There's the part where the gremlins get into the actual projector showing the movie, and they shut down the movie. That's why Hulk Hogan has to tell them to play Gremlins too, because they're just full anarchy, guys. They're
putting on some old timey porn, kind of like these topless women playing volleyball in black and white. You don't see much. It sounds like something our friend Brian Barnes would have definitely reviewed on his channel.
And just to show them some of those cool gremlins we talked about. Some of these gremlins you need to see in clips rather than pictures. But check out this guy. A gremlin made of electricity. It's so creative. I think another thing I love about this movie, when I was a kid, me and my friends in the neighborhood we would play Gremlins, but essentially we played Gremlins too because somebody would want to be the brain gremlin, somebody would want to be Daffy, somebody would want to be, it very much feels like a game that kids made up, like a make believe game. And it's just wonderful that they were just giving so much license and freedom with their creativity. Like the sky's the limit.
Like I said, I wish as a kid, I know it would have been like kind of against what they were making fun of, but I wish they would have made action figures for all these. I love the electric gremlin. That's my second favorite, behind the bat one. I wanted them. I love how you fight them all in the video game. Like you fight the electric gremlin as a boss. You fight the bat gremlin. You fight the more tough, mean gangster one with a gun. And another one that we didn't talk about, because you got this gangster one. He's like really like evil brows. He's kind of like pissed off. And then he's got this buck-toothed friend who's like very country bumpkin-ish. I don't know how
That's
to like.
Larry, isn't it?
Yeah, Larry, and he's like got these big buck teeth, and he goes like he's Goofy from like.
Yeah.
Basically, he's Goofy.
Oh wow.
Oh, nice. Gonna have to comment on that real quick.
I want to say hi to Dino really quick, who's in the chat, and JK's 80s horror fan. This Sunday night versus vids make my week. Thank you so much, and thank you for the generous donation. We are not forgetting Fight Night. We've got a really fun one coming up of Universal Monsters, so I hope you'll check that out. And thank you so much for the donation. So generous of you.
That's awesome. But yeah, when we're talking about, what'd you say his name was?
Lenny?
Larry? Lenny? That gremlin. I love the part because we were mentioning Froyo earlier. That's how he like eats after midnight. They pour Froyo down his throat, but it's really creepy and unintended probably because like if you really pay attention to that scene, he's an animatronic little puppet and he fills up with so much Froyo that it pours out of his eyes, and it's like, oh, it's so disturbing.
Which is funny because in the first movie, behind the scenes, they talk about how they're really careful to not even get like a little bit of spit on Gizmo. So the fact that they go all crazy with it in the second one's really cool.
Well, I think at that point, because that's like the last time you see him as a Mogwai, they were just like, yeah, just drench him with the Froyo.
Yeah.
It's coming out of all of his pores. It's coming out of his eyelids. It's so creepy looking. I love that.
I don't know why our little alerts aren't coming on. Oh, well, I'll fix it. Let's talk about the spider room. As far as parts of this movie that are genuinely creepy, there's a part where Mrs. Bloodstone goes into the big web, and what happens to Mohawk is she like opens her arms.
She's all tangled up.
Mohawk
in the
becomes the spider gremlin, which again, incredible stop motion animation. Guys, even if you're just a fan of animation, like the work that was done on this movie is just amazing. I also love the parodies to a lot of movies. We talked about the Batman one, but there's a couple different Phantom of the Opera ones.
Oh yeah. That's like planned out. He already had the mask ready to go.
I love that says "Don't throw in face."
Yeah. Like they're like, oh, let's totally do this because we have to ignore all signs, like on purpose.
It's so Looney Tunes. It's so Looney. Like I feel like if you love Looney Tunes, you kind of have to love this, and that's cool because the first time like I ever had seen a gremlin was on Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, when he was like, "Little green men." Suppose it could have been a gremlin, Doc.
And here's the full-on Phantom of the Opera tribute.
Even though that scene is mostly for laughs, he does genuinely look creepy though.
He really does, and I think this is fun in a way for like kids to enjoy creepiness. In fact, I would even say if you have really little kids, Gremlins 2 might be the one to start them on because there are a couple of fun creepy moments in this, like the spider, the bat. But there's nothing in here that's really, I think, gonna give you nightmares. Where I know a lot of kids, including my brothers, were afraid of the first Gremlins movie. So you can kind of test the waters with this one.
Yeah, the first one had a lot of build where you don't even see Gizmo right away, and then they kind of show you him. And once you get used to him, then they like bring out the Gremlins, and it's kind of scary. Where this one, like, it goes pretty quick, but that's usually pretty typical for a sequel because you don't have to do that world building as much. You can get right into the action. And I'd say, yeah, this is way less creepy overall. There is some dark moments, but not as nearly as much. but I would go with it. Gremlins in general is a good starter horror for children.
I agree. And like I said, if your kids, some people scare easier than others. As much as I love horror, I got a lot of my scaredness out as a little kid because I was so scared. I still wanted to see everything. But, you know, I was scared of a lot of stuff. I'd have to have a pillow to cover my face or hide behind the couch. So you know your children. If your children are very easily scared, you know, things like Ursula might scare them in Little Mermaid, maybe start with Gremlins too.
Yeah.
But if they like to be a little scared, if they really enjoy it, you know, they're, you know, kids after my own heart, then you can go ahead and do Gremlins. I mean, with my kid, we did.
Yeah.
I want to check in with the chat real quick here because we got some cool stuff going on. Patrick says, knock at the cabin. Dude, I'm going to be doing a most anticipated one, which hopefully you'll join me for. We're going to talk about upcoming movies. And M. Night, like, I have to see his movies. Whether they're hit or miss. Like, I have to. Like, I thought Old was kind of crazy, but...
They're always a spectacle, if anything.
They are indeed.
There's something to see.
Did I see your comment, Jason? Have I seen Wednesday? I did watch Wednesday, and I thought her dance was awesome. I also really love The Cramps, which is, it's one of their songs that she's dancing to, so it's really cool. Old dude vampire will have to sit this battle out. He'll have to for this one. But another old dude vampire will be there, so...
I think I need to start writing a movie and call it.
Do you guys see yourself doing adult movies? What kind of adult movies are you talking about here? I don't see myself doing any adult movies. Because I'm just not that skilled. However, I don't know. I might review some.
Is that what he's at? That's what I'm asking. Like doing, like, as in we talk about them or actually film them ourselves?
Probably, I might at some point review some. There are some, one of them, the American Wolf in London one, is one I actually kind of want to talk about just because the production value is insane.
I do write and make some movies, like as like short films. I don't think I'm gonna ever do adult films. I don't think so.
We got Knightmare Files in the chat. Michael Myers, he'll come back eventually. I think he's taking a break right now. Deadpool 3. I do really want to see Deadpool 3. Wow. So, there's also another movie homage in this one, which I have to say I'm not a huge fan of, because, well, you'll see. Maybe. Oh, shoot. Sorry, I had it muted. How long has it been muted for?
The witch thing, then.
Oops. Oh, yeah. That's witches. That's what we said about that. But yeah, we have fun here. You know, it's all good. So now it's time to get your questions in and final comments because we're going to be wrapping up the stream here real soon. I also want to recommend what I was saying before when I was muted is the Gremlins board game. That's really fun. We played that with my brother over the holidays. And Gremlins in 4K actually looks really great.
Yeah, it does. It looks really good.
Denisha is excited. There's a new Final Destination in the works. I have heard about that. Also, there's going to be a new Saw this year, a new Exorcist, and I am most excited about that Evil Dead.
Evil Dead Rise. It's going to come out early this year.
And I'm so excited it's going to be in the cinemas. And Gremlins 3.
Oh, yeah. Evil Dead Rise is how I'm, like, super anticipating of, like, starting this year. And Gremlins 3 is how I'm anticipating ending this year.
But yeah, Gremlins 3 is coming out. Are you excited? What do you anticipate happening? I mean, it's been there was a 5-year gap between Gremlins 1 and 2. This is a pretty big gap since Gremlins 2. What do you think is going to happen?
I don't know a lot of the specifics. I'm hoping Joe Dante's coming back for it.
I would love Joe Dante to come back for it.
I wouldn't mind if there was involvement with Chris Columbus or Spielberg as well. That's fine. I know they can't get all the people back. I hope Billy does come back. I hope Phoebe Cates comes back. Sadly, Dick Miller can't come back anymore, but I hope there maybe is a reference.
I think Zach Galligan would be down.
Yeah, I mean, even
And I
Judge
know
Reinhold.
Howie Mantel's down.
Judge Reinhold could come back. I'd be fine with a lot of that. I don't mind if they do CGI, like I said, for running, jumping, or anything that's really hard for an animatronic to do. But mostly want puppets and animatronic for like those close-ups and just for the actors to have something to really act with, because I love those. I think Gremlins look so great, like as real things. I don't think you need CGI for the full of the movie. If they put a little bit in, it's fine. Just please don't take over it.
Ariel says, Gremlins 2, The New Batch was my favorite underrated horror sequel, and I'm excited for Megan. Oh my gosh, me too. We have a Ghost, Scoob, Holiday Hunt, and a 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers, Gory and Danny. I think it's going to be a really fun year for horror. I am really excited about it. Stay tuned, because I think it might be Wednesday. I might do Most Anticipated. And on Sunday, like I said, we're going to be doing the best and worst of.
Exactly. I love the Gremlins 2 poster, especially. I used to have that on my wall. I also saw this movie when it hit theaters. I didn't see the first one because I was, I think, a year old when it came out in theaters. But I loved this one, and even though my dad was like, "Oh, it's such a bad sequel," I'm like, "No, it's great." And I had this poster on my bedroom wall.
It's a great poster.
I loved it.
It tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, I even like the detail where you can see that it's a fabric backdrop on the window, which is part of the movie.
Exactly.
Final thoughts on Gremlins 2.
I love it. Like I said, it might not be quite as good as that first one, but it's so close and so underrated, I think. And as a kid, like especially like if you have kids, show this to your kids, because as a kid, I really loved it. I might have even liked it more as a kid than the original, because it had all these crazy over-the-top characters that just really stuck with me, and I still love them.
I think, like I said before, this is like a full cartoon anarchy incarnate. If you love Looney Tunes, there's no reason you're not going to love Gremlins 2. I think there's a lot of fun stuff in here if you were around in the 80s, but you don't need to be in order to enjoy it. It's just fun. It's slapstick. It's a good time. And what they were able to accomplish with the animatronics and the blue screen technology is amazing. It still holds up. Fun soundtrack, fun characters. This is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it. If you haven't seen Gremlins or Gremlins 2 already, like, make that something that you watch tonight, because they're both fantastic films.
Exactly. For some people, because I know that they have like a big nostalgia and they have a big love for like the Muppet Show. I was not that into that Muppet Show ever, but this was my version, because these were like more of the puppets that I related to. Like, oh, they're so crazy, or they're a little more edgy, they're a little more violent, they have a little more cool like reptilian texture to them. But it is very much like the Muppet Show, a dark comedy.
They have a whole scene that looks just like the Muppet Show, where they're all popping out of the little cardboard cutout thing, and then there's a big musical number, and then Greta comes up. Like, it has so much in it that is just a tribute to like movies, not even just horror movies, just like musicals and, you know, like the Muppets, and just, you know, things that, you know, people in the 80s grew up with.
You probably shouldn't show Meet the Feebles to your kids, but you could show them this.
Yeah, don't show them Meet the Feebles. Like, no.
Like, that's the way end of the dark Muppet version. But this is I think like just the right version, like where it's not too cutesy, it's got some dark and edge to it, but it's also not over the line.
Jason's gonna watch Halloween Ends tonight. That's awesome, because I think that's a great movie. Fun fact, Joe Dante also directed Looney Tunes Back in Action. That is very cool. I think one of the things about Looney Tunes Back in Action I really like is it had Casey Kasem and Matthew Lillard in it. So it was kind of like a passing of the torch from the, you know, original Shaggy to the Shaggy we have now.
And this one had Hulk Hogan. Looney Tunes Back in Action had Bill Goldberg, who was Santa's sleigh. Like, I love that movie.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I've had a great time talking about Gremlins. It's been awesome hanging out with all of you guys in the chat. Do join me tomorrow morning. We'll have some coffee or tea, whatever your morning beverage of choice is. And I will see you then. You can also join us on Sunday for our double feature of the best of 2022 on my channel And then right afterwards, the worst of over on Horror Addicts.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
What type of gremlin would you like to see in part 3?
Did I just get to make up my own gremlin?
Yeah.
Well, they're already kind of reptilian-y and scaly, so maybe some kind of like a kind of creature of the Black Lagoon, like water dwelling
At
one,
least a montage or
or like
some sort of reference, like where they like kind of reference that movie with a gremlin.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they would do well. Well, no, because when they're in water, they get pregnant. So no, that's not going to work. Okay, I scratched that idea. Scratch that idea. That's a terrible idea. I don't know, which one's yours? Now I have to think about it.
I love it. It's in the movie, is what I was gonna say to whatever your answer was. I kind of want a were-gremlin, where it is like a gremlin, but still furry like a mogwai, like almost a wolf gremlin, like a werewolf, a man, like a wolf. I think it's funny that we both went with Universal Monsters, because I wanted like kind of a wolf-man gremlin, where he's furry like a mogwai, but still like the body and structure of a gremlin.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking something like that too. I think for mine, I'm going to go with, because they're already so cartoony and animated, kind of like a clown gremlin. You know, like the overalls, like Roger Rabbit, and like maybe a bullhorn, has like, one of those like electric buzzers, just all kind of like jokery type stuff.
Maybe a mime gremlin?
Fuck you.
That'd be too scary? All right.
That's too scary. Too scary. Oh, the movie Massacre, is he here?
Hey, what's
the
up?
The female gremlin is hot. Yeah, Rich, you'd think so.
I'm not going to argue. I don't think so, but I can see why you would think that.
Well, guys, we are calling it a night, but please join me tomorrow morning, 11:30 Pacific Standard Time, and let's have a cup of tea. Cup of coffee.
I like a female mogwai, because they haven't done that.
I just want, like, anything you can think of, I would love to see it in a gremlin form. Like, I do not think that there is a line you can't cross. I'd like to see a zombie gremlin.
Well, the first 2 movies, they threw everything at the wall. I want them to throw everything at the wall this one, too.
Just do it. Just whatever craziness you can think of. In fact, leave us a comment below and let us know what crazy gremlin you would like to see in Gremlins 3.
I want a giant gremlin, human size.
Ooh, I like that. Like an Ant-Man one that can be tiny or giant.
Yeah.
Very exciting. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Danny, thank you. And until we meet again, blessed be.